recurring billing. So I don't have control. Log in. Yeah, but I can't do anything. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't have any control. So, go to Setup, Files and Systems, System Setup. And then go to Product Code tab. Yeah. And you see we've got a R for subscription service, so that's going to cause this to allow it to be a recurring billing product code. And then go to the Billing tab. And you see there at the bottom left, we have R for recurring billing. So this sets that product code up to be a recurring billing product code. And then go to General 2, and you see bottom left, bottom right, we have a contract hold status where you'll put these recurring projects until they no longer want to be recurring. Okay.
Right.
Exit save changes no. Top left, top right, and you can jump out. Say no. Just say no. Okay, good. So if you go to listen status, we should have a recurring contract hold status called Q, and we do. Okay, good. So to create a recurring contract, go to the new project now. And that went off to a different screen.
Oh, yeah. I was being so clever. All right, so project.
Okay, now one thing you don't have, okay, it doesn't really matter. One thing you don't have turned on is ask the product code first. And you could actually set up a different series of project numbers for recurring versus installations.
Yeah, I don't, actually, it's probably not helpful.
Okay, and so it's going to be, our project number is going to be this, the project number that just came up.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you put this into the, you choose a different, your subscription, exactly correct. And you change the status to be Q, project status to be Q.
Can you do that on this screen?
You may have it restricted.
I don't see it.
Top left corner where it says I, you just make it a Q.
Oh, yeah, it does. What am I talking about? Okay.
Assuming you allow it to be a Q to be a starting project status. Okay.
We need to check that. Yep. Okay.
And then you give it a description, be it, recurring billing or whatever you maintenance contract or whatever you want to say as far as your description.
Right.
And then give it a job name, and date due would be today.
So date due does that have any impact on
Nothing, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. All right.
Now you hit your make project screen, and a new screen should pop up. Okay. And this is where you set the anniversary date, which would be, in this case, 7/1, or we make it August 1. It's always the first of the month.
Okay.
And the frequency would be, once annual would be a 1.
Got it.
And 2 would be semi-annual, and 3 and 4 respectively. Okay.
Got it.
Now, if there was an actual inspection associated with this, using the PMS yearly frequency, you can also specify a inspection frequency that can be different than the billing frequency.
Okay.
And the anniversary date can be a month later or something like that, like you do the billing first and then you do the inspection next month.
Okay.
So you can have the ability to set that up, and it can either follow or not follow the dates accordingly. Okay?
And that actually would cause a service ticket to be generated?
Yeah, there's a PMS checkbox on the screen that would generate that portion of it. That's correct. Okay?
All right.
And then the single hour inspection is information, how long does that inspection take, be it 5 hours or 16 or whatever, so that you have a clue as to the length of the time of the inspection. And this would be the description of that, annual inspection, ... Okay. Okay. The other note fields are just information holding fields, which could be that are on some reports that would allow you to just have notes about who the contact is to set up the PMS or things like that. And the notify PMS only, auto billing PMS notify, F for fire marshal, B for billing manager. You just put little letters in there as to who you want to coordinate this with, that thing.
Okay.
When you're finished with that, you just go ahead and say continue now. And that takes you back to, this is your normal 2-letter thing. And then you go into build project at this point. And then in the project, you would put a billing line for whatever the single bill amount is, using either an E line or a C line. You can also set up a part number for like recurring billing or something like that. So whatever method you want to put money into this project, you can use this guy and enter through it. And then the cost would be 0. And then the selling price would be the selling price. So, and the reason why I say the cost is 0 because it's not inventory, 1. And 2, you want, let's say it's a $500 inspection or something like that, whatever that is. So, because the cost is coming from payroll. You with me? No. The answer would be no on this prompt. And then 5.
We've been putting costs in because otherwise it looks like maintenance agreements have this infinite amount of margin.
Okay, so if you want to calculate the cost, that's fine. That gives you an estimated cost. Of course, actual cost comes from whatever it is. And one thing I don't recommend you can use this miscellaneous for this purpose here. And go to the inventory screen for a minute from there. So inventory button. No. Okay. So you'll notice it says item type in the middle there. It says item type I. Hit edit and hit the drop down. And you see there's a billing item, not that we'll use it for this one, but when you create a real part number like recurring or maintenance or whatever you want to call the thing, you'll make that item billing item so it doesn't require any inventory.
Gotcha.
Okay? And then you can just go ahead and hit cancel, hit escape on this and then save changes and then close the screen. Okay. And then finish the line out. Hold on 1 minute, please. Now, if you put yourself back on the P for a minute,
Oops. Right.
You can press the inventory button and go to that item without actually going through the line. Bottom middle, there's a button called inventory.
No, I don't think I knew that.
That's been there for a couple years, actually.
Yeah. It's called filtering.
Yep. Okay, close the screen out again. So one of the things that you can do, I mean, you're actually done, okay? But one of the behind the scenes things that's not necessarily known but is available to you is you could put a line, line down below it now. Go to a new line. You can do a TE.
Where?
Just do a T.
Oh, T.
And you see there's an E, end invoice on current line, which would end the invoice. So just check the E and hit enter. And that'll stop the invoice from going any further to the customer. And you can put anything above the line what you want to say on the invoice.
Okay.
But below the line, you can do W lines or A lines. And what those are, W lines gives you a checkbox. So you could do, 4 smoke detectors or, one monitor to be looked at, one, a list of materials that you could actually get a checkbox on. If you print a report of this, you can actually have a little checkbox for inspections. So that's a...
Which report does that?
If you print out the service ticket, you'll all of a sudden get these little checkboxes.
That's interesting.
And that's been there for like 10 or 15 years. So this isn't even new news. If it is, assuming it's my blank service ticket, if you haven't modified it. Okay. So yeah, if you go back to my original service ticket, you'll get a checkbox. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Cancel that now. Okay. So above the line, you get just what's on the invoice. Below the line, you get, and the miscellaneous agreement will print, and anything above the line will print on the service ticket, but the money won't, of course, because it's a money line. So service tickets don't print money line. They don't print the dollar figure. So it's informational purposes, but not disclosing the price. Okay.
Okay.
So now you can exit this project.
Oh, one more question though.
Yeah.
So it's billed on. I'm assuming this is perpetual right now. It's going to bill July 1st of every year.
That's correct.
What if it's a 5-year maintenance or subscription, and so I want it to end?
Well, the question would be the following. This checkbox, we can turn it on. But then it would affect the service side as well.
Okay.
So you got to think about that. Unless I were to do some coding to say if home off is turn on the stop and not second off, reserve is not turn on the stop. So you could think about that. I could add a checkbox to say, not turn off or turn off, that thing.
So the other option, I guess, would be to write in the body the term of the agreement, so that if Teresa popped up an invoice that exceeded the term, she'd know it was outside the term.
Exactly right. Yeah. So if you've got there's that mechanism. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
Now, if you heading section for a minute of this project, and you see the anniversary date is now the end date, even though you created the project today, which is the 11th or 12th. By setting the anniversary date, that sets the end date to be that date. Got it?
Okay. Yep.
And if you go to miscellaneous dates and contract setup, you'll now see new fields, and there's where you set the frequency, which is 1. And you see the PMS frequency below that, which is 1, 2, and the corresponding dates. Got it?
Got it.
there is the repeat expiration date down the bottom there, which another solution would be that if we leave it blank, I could see if I can code for this. We leave it blank, it won't expire. If you set a date, it'll expire. That'd be another way to go.
Right.
So that currently doesn't exist in the code, but relatively minor amount of coding to make that work. Got it?
I do. I'll chat with the folks upstairs.
The people at B. Exactly right. Okay. I guess there's another thought too. The other thought would be you put the date in there and you run a report that says contract expiration date, when they're going to come, and you run a report 2 months out from when it's going to expire, and then you go sell it again. So there's another, that's another.
Which probably is important as well.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's the way that field, if you fill in it right now, will not expire the contract, but it gives you a way to report on that then.
Right. So what do you happen to know what table this is in?
It's actually in Project Mass. There's a field called contract expire date.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay. And then you can hit the save button to save that change. And then done. Okay. All right. Now you can close the screen. That is the setup of a recurring billing, and then you got a PMS thing there as well. Okay.
Okay.
Now to run this in the respective office, go to Billing menu and go to Auto Billing.
Okay.
Right there. Okay. So you'll notice interesting. Current billing effective date. You have a feature turned on. I haven't seen the screen in a while, so I forgot what this was. You have a feature turned on called Set. There's a feature in the system where you can set up a you can set up a feature called escalation. And what escalation does is you can have the first year be at one price and the next year be at a higher price. Okay. And the third year at a higher price based on the date range. This does require you set up a specific part number for that, because that's what's the trigger for prompting you for the date range. And you see there in the middle of the screen, or it says set. See where it says set there?
Yep.
That's where you actually set the current period, and then you run a generator, and it would go through all the projects for this period, and if the dates corresponded to a change, it would make a change in the setup of the project to use a different part number. It zeroes out the one that is not valid anymore and puts a 1 in the one that is valid. So,
well, that's interesting, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. So it is there, so I'm just telling you that's what that set's about. We're just going to ignore it for now. Now,
okay.
And you notice it hasn't been run since 17, so obviously it's not being used. But here we go. So you'll notice your list, this month's list. Okay? And that comes up by default. And then you can set the effective date at the bottom there for the month that you're about to run for. And it's not necessarily going to be, in this example, July 1, because you might be doing the billing for August 1. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
So in this case, it is July 1, because that's what we set this project up for. So now just press the Start button. And what that'll do is it'll generate a list for recurring billing. You must have your font, something like that.
This is a 4K display.
Yeah, hit your buttons in the top left, and it'll resize that for you. You can try with those buttons there. There we go. Fine. Good. So this gives you what is about to be recurring billing.
Gotcha.
And this is your verification for before you generate the bills.
Okay.
Okay? And that would be an interesting thing. You see you've got your expiration date right there on the screen. So if you see one's not going to be valid this year, this is your point of being able to delete it. And the delete is simply removing the project from that status.
Okay.
Okay? And then go ahead and hit your close screen here. And now the next report that you have is a list of all your contracts, irrespective of date. So go ahead and press that guy. The radio button says list all, exactly. List all, exactly. And then hit start, and you get all contracts irrespective of the date.
Got it.
Okay? And it's the same thing, it's just, in this case, it's the same report, but if it were a real thing, you'd have, some months this month, some months that month, etc. Okay? Close the screen. Now, the next one is to list out by month. So go ahead and press that guy and do start. Now, this gives you a crystal reports, but it actually breaks it up by month. As you see here, you've got some that are going to happen in March, and some that are going to happen in July, and then some that are going to happen in this case.
So of the two projects, the one that I played with earlier, I had it set for 3 billings a year.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. So it's really a nice report because it lets you see across the board what your cash flow is going to be on the recurring contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Cool. Yep.
And then you can close that screen. Now, the next one is the unit that actually creates the invoice. So if you click on that guy there and then hit go, it'll spin out, X number of invoices based on whatever you've said. Okay?
What are these two checkboxes?
So the PMS one is the one that generates the preventative maintenance report. So go ahead and check that one and go back to list.
Oh, okay.
And then, so hit this and hit start, and you should have none. There you go. But put August at the effective date, and you'll have 1. And then you'll have the one that you did. Like that.
Got it.
Okay? Now, one point I didn't think about this is there's a checkbox for the inspection. We should probably go visit that again because what we wanted to do is we actually wanted to spawn a service ticket under setup. Actually, it's in setup, not the project setup. It's it's setup. And what we wanted to do is spawn the actual service ticket as a separate service ticket. Go to General 2, and you see bottom right, there's a checkbox that says copy project, spawn project, and then spawn project allows, that's a product code, new PMS status. Okay, we've already got it set up as an S. So hit your status list for a moment. Status tab, rather. storage status tab. And T&M billing to do. So it's in the service. It goes, in this case, it's not a separate status for inspections, but it just goes into your service status. Okay? And there you go. Now notice you also have a product code P there, which may not be in your product code list right now. I don't believe it is. Hit your product code tab again. It's not. So the product code P, what that is that is an inspection only, not auto billing. So you can actually have two projects, one for the billing side of it and one for the inspection side of it. Or it could be, in the case of a fire inspection, it would generate just the inspection, and then it would be billed after you do the work. You know, it generates the inspection with a $500 inspection fee, but you actually bill it after you complete the inspection. So that would be the product code P that you would add to your system. Got it?
Okay.
Okay. Close the screen, save changes, no.
Is that on the screen?
Which one? The exit out?
Was there an exit on anywhere else?
And just the X, just X out of the billing menu again. You might have minimized it. Yeah, good. And then auto billing. And so the PMS one, that is about generating those inspections, and in this case, it's going to spawn a service ticket in the service ticket to do status list.
Okay.
Okay. Go back to create invoice. There was one other checkbox. No, right there, the bottom, the fourth radial.
Right.
And you see it says generate invoices.
Yep.
That was put there for a particular customer, and it has to do with the concept of we did a service call and somebody reviewed it and made all the labor, and they put it into a status called invoices to do, a special status called invoices to do, where there's no other work to do other than a list. And this generate invoice will look at that status and just spin out all the invoices in that status.
Got it.
And then move the project to, completed projects. Just to complete the conversation.
All right.
That's it. That's recurring billing.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for that. If it launched,